Hey everybody, welcome. It's Tuesday, and we're here for our virtual happy hour. It is December 15th, the middle of December, and guess what, folks? Christmas is next Friday. I can't believe where the time went. So I'm happy you're here today, and I'm glad you're being part of our virtual happy hour. Hopefully you're being safe out there and have a beverage ready because we'll be asking for what beer you should be drinking shortly. With that in mind, I want to bring in today's guest, Mike Shannon, who is the National Director for Ails for ALS. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, before we get into all the great things about Ails for ALS, and we're just talking in the pre-show about some of the great initiatives you guys were working on, just like any other happy hour that we could do in person, it's all about what beers we're drinking. So, Mike, you're all the way on the other side of the coast here in Washington State. What are you drinking tonight for tonight's show?
Well, I have to represent my favorite and the head of our program. It's Bellbreaker Brewing Company's Top Cutter IPA, their main one. And then I'll back that up with a Reuben's Brews Hazelicious. They're out of Seattle as well. So awesome brewers out here, I'm sure, like everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, you're supporting local on your end, so I'll support local on my end. This is a double fragment from a brewery called New Park Brewing out of West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm a huge fan of these guys over here. Very good on the hazy IPA. This is the double IPA at 8%. Definitely a hazy IPA as well. So if you're out there too, let us know in the chat what you're drinking tonight. We'd love to put some of those on the screen while we wait for you guys to enjoy your beverage. We're going to crack open ours on our side and pour it into our vessel, or whether drinking it from the can itself. I already see a lot of great people chatting right now what they're drinking, and we'll be able to put this on the screen shortly. So please keep typing away as we pour the beer. Hey, I've always messed up pours, but I did a pretty good job today on this one here. So
well, the double IPA, I suppose you only get one for this particular session, right?
That's usually how it works. I'm a father of two, so yes, that's typically how it works on my end as well. So, Mike, cheers, everybody out there as well. Nice for joining, and enjoy your beverage.
Got the mighty squirrel right there.
I like it. Well, let's see what everyone's drinking in the chat right now. This is it's from Brian, a Yingling Hershey's chocolate porter. This is actually a trending beer we see a lot on Untapped, made with the real Hershey's chocolate, and obviously being in the Pennsylvania area. So I'm curious, but I've never tried this one before, but definitely a good choice there, Brian, on that end. Vladimir is drinking a double dry hopped double IPA collaboration with Bra Print and Bra Funky Fluid, two of the Polish breweries there. Thanks for watching, Vladimir. We appreciate it. What else we got here? David is drinking a Trillium backpack fashion show. Very, very jealous of you, David. Giving a nice Trillium there. We appreciate you watching in. Jamie says, Crowded Places by Brave and the Great New England IPA. Always a big fan of New England IPAs, and I feel like everyone's doing them nowadays. They're one of the top styles that we see happen all the time on Untapped. Let's see. Anything we got here? Christopher, thanks for joining again from Berlin. My fellow Connecticut person, Gray Sail, captain's daughter. Great beer as well. And also a nice little tap room there. If you ever get a chance to visit once COVID kind of lifts, it's like a little house that you can kind of go in and check out there as well. So awesome beers being drank by the community. I think that's an awesome job there. But obviously, Mike, you're on the show tonight talking about a really important initiative. That's something that Untapped is supporting pretty deeply within our ecosystem here. Tell us a little about what Ails for ALS is and how you got started with the program.
Well, Ails for ALS is a fundraising vehicle for the ALS Therapy Development Institute. And the institute is about 21, 22 years old. That its purpose is to create drugs, therapies for ALS, which is, as you may know, it's very nascent. There's some recent developments in the last, I'd say, 6-7 years that have been very significant, that are very helpful, and ALS TDI has been part of that. Ails for ALS was founded by the Smith family out of Yakima, Washington, aka Bellbreaker, Loftus Ranches, and Yakima Chief. And so they decided as a family that their family was directly affected by this disease, and they wanted to figure out a way to support the research program and use their assets in order to fund cutting edge research. And therefore they created in 2013 the Ails for ALS program. It was Megan Quinn and Kevin Quinn. Megan is the adult daughter of Mike and Cheryl. Kevin Smith is the brewer, and as a family, Pat runs the farm. They decided to create this program that would take the hops from Yakima Chief that are growing right there in Yakima Valley and then give it to brewers across the country who could then take them, create their own special brew, and then provide $1 back per pint when tap rooms were open.
Yeah.
I'll tell you more about that later in terms of what we did this past year. But that has really provided the Institute with about $3.5 million over the course of the last 7+ years. We're on our 8th year this year, completing it, and we're moving forward into year 9 with the hopes of attracting back to our 200 to 250 brewer kind of level nationwide, and be able to have some form of a brew fest nationwide.
That's the biggest challenge right now. You mentioned it earlier. We were talking about, obviously, with COVID-19, we see a lot of issues within the brewing industry when it comes to being able to have tap rooms and stuff like that. But it's got to play an impact on a fundraising opportunity, because you're leveraging a lot of these opportunities to be in person, having these events. What have you guys been able to do to kind of combat some of the stuff that COVID has kind of put in your face from that perspective?
Yeah, we had a really successful 2019. We had 220 brewers practically. We raised the program up to another level, and we're shooting in 2020 to have, more than our normal 2 brew fests in Yakima and in California at Faction Brewing Company. We were going to have them in Boston, going to have them in Raleigh, North Carolina. We were going to have it in Seattle, and we were going to try to get one in Florida and one in Texas, and then COVID. And so we had to immediately get nimble and figure out a way to deliver these. So we converted the concept into a virtual brewfest, in which we got brewers in those respective communities to commit to brewing a beer, and they had to can. More overhead, a little more cost, so the donation back is slightly less, but it was like an incredible way for us to keep the program vital and alive. And we had virtual brewfests in Boston, Raleigh, North Carolina, at Faction Brewing Company with Faction and the Rare Barrel in Berkeley. And then the Smiths did their own version with a collaboration with 7 different brewers around Washington. And that beer that was brewed in certain states like California, they shipped it all over. In Washington, they shipped it all over. Boston, people came and picked it up. Raleigh, it was local. And as a result of it, we were able to keep our kind of momentum going forward without losing that entire year to no particular revenue coming in at all.
Right.
Also had fewer brewers this year, but we automatically converted to the program to say, you don't have to have the beer in your tap room. Create a can, and as we all know, right, cans became a little bit scarce for a while there.
It did, yeah.
Raw materials, whatever, supply chains. And as a result, we had to kind of like tailor that around brewers. And brewers are still struggling with it. And, a lot of really, really, really good brewers around the country that have been part of the program and have been a hallmark for us had to bow out this year because of COVID. Russian River Brewing Company, Brooklyn Brewing Company. And we decided that for all the brewers involved, we were going to make it as easy as them as we can. Even Stone was going to be part of it again, which they always are. They had to pull out this year. So they're going to be back next year. We're going to be back. We don't know yet what full capacity we'll be in, but we're anticipating we'll have to do some form of virtual, possibly some form of small in-person for the Brewfest concept, and hope to have back, like I say, 200 to 250 brewers in the program.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. You might talk about the breweries here. I'm going to pull up your website here where people can see these things. There's a list of all the breweries that are part of the particular initiative here. It's crazy to see. I always love seeing maps zoomed out like this, and you can't see anything inside the map because there's so many amazing little breweries that are part of this for everywhere you go. So if you're out there and you want to look at this, we'll post a link to this in the chat so you guys can see what we're looking at here in terms of all the breweries and participating breweries are part of this package here. You can look at it by the country, the state that's in there. You can zoom in there. We're just looking at before the show where I am in Connecticut. You can kind of zoom in exactly where you are and see what breweries are supporting. So, for example, for me, Willimantic Brewing Company is one that's close to my house here, and they can see what they're offering as well. So it's a great opportunity. You got to even scroll down here on the bottom. You can see which breweries are part of your own state that are part of this initiative, because it's really important. I think that we have a lot of we see a lot of collaboration breweries to support charities and initiatives here. But the main part about is you working with the breweries to provide those hops and having that whole experience from the entire kind of of ecosystem together to make a product that affects this horrible thing that we don't have a cure for. So, ultimately, it's a great cause. And if you're interested in learning more about it, click on the link in the description, and also in the comments to find more about how you can get involved with this situation. And obviously, for you, Mike, it's got to feel good to see all these breweries pop up on these maps. But obviously, setting aside COVID from everything that's happened already there, obviously there's a lot of positive to look for in the future based on the fact that people are still sticking with you guys, even given in COVID for 2021.
Yeah, we had about 175 brewers this year, and we actually expanded it to cideries. So we got 5 cideries in the program this year, and they are localized over here in the Northwest, but we'd love cideries from all over the country to be involved. A lot of fruit out here in Washington. And you showed the breweries that you're near, like Willimantic. The beauty of the program is I do keep a regular conversation, whether it's by email or text or my phone, on a regular basis. And I just actually emailed with Dave Woolner at Willimantic yesterday about
nice.
So they're all very connected to the program, and they really love it. We have everything from nanos, who are brewing like hundreds of barrels a year to, like I said, a Stone or even a Bellbreaker at 35 to 45,000 barrels a year. And, these premier ones. I mean, we have had the goal, of course, of getting like even more of these Russian River types in the program. Like Trillium was looking at it this year, and then they, of course, had to back out. I had the great pleasure of visiting there last year and tasting stuff. And I see why everybody's crazy about the New England IPAs, and a great little place. I was really lucky because I got there like a certain point, and it was like there was no line. I was like, wow. And I walked in the bar. Literally 15, 20 minutes later, I looked outside. There was 150 people in line to get in. I was like, how did I get so lucky? So,
but it's funny how that works sometimes. I remember when I visited Treehouse for the first time up here in New England, and I went in, I just walked in, I grabbed some beer, and I walked out, and I was like, everybody's talking about Treehouse. You wait in line for 2.5 hours. And I just went there. I happened to go there on a day where it wasn't as busy as anyone else. It was more in the afternoon, and the beer was still available. And I come back a week later, and I'm sitting in a 2.5 hour line for the same beer that I went to grab before. So it's just crazy how lucky sometimes you get when those things happen there. I wanted to pull up this comment from Andrew on the board here. Hey, Andrew, thanks for watching. Any information on when the site will be updated? Looks like there's some beer names that are missing from the map. Do you have a process of where people can kind of request edits, or how does that process work for updating the website to make sure that it has information that it needs?
So some of the breweries that I'm assuming what he's saying is that some of the brewers that are in the program are not on the map. We surely would want to put everybody on the map that we can. And if we've got a little bit of we missed a brewer to put on there that is actually in the program, please, indicate to us who that is. We have a pretty good close relationship with brewers. And if you're connected to one of them and they're not on there, please email me at M. Shannon, my last name, at ALS.net, or there's a link to contact us on the website and let us know like where we might be missing one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important. I think, Untapped is a very collaborative nature with our community people. If there's a beer that's missing from Untapped, people add the beers, and Andrew's one of our moderators as well that kind of go in there and clean up some systems. So anything you can help to kind of move this process forward would be helpful for everybody else. Obviously, we kind of announced this year about our giving badge, which is an opportunity on Untapped to kind of have the community give. And, for the holiday season, we mentioned this foundation and this situation in that particular post about Ails for ALS. I've known about this for a very long time, being in the beer industry, and followed you guys as well. But I think, COVID kind of resets people's expectations for how they deal with certain things. The ALS has taken a lot of people away from this world that obviously, it's just a very horrible thing. So ultimately mixing beer with something like this is a great initiative. How has the reception been since you first started this? And obviously it's grown over time, and obviously it's been a positive thing, but what does it feel like going from like the very first time you've done this to where it is today, and how that's felt?
Well, the first year I remember, and I was with ALS TDI then, and then I left for a few years and I came back. And in 2013, I think I want to say we had 65 plus brewers involved. So the revenue was small. The ones that were involved were the ones that we had all the real tight relationships with, through the Smiths and through Yakima Chief. And it was really kind of cool to have this organic kind of program where you could literally talk to everybody that's in the program and invite them to the Sierra Nevada does a thing every year at the Fresh Hops Festival that we would go to, and they'd all be there. And then as we grew, we wanted to incorporate more of the country into it. And unfortunately, because of, some limitations, we're not always able to get like Midwestern brewers involved or Southern
Right.
brewers, and we want to. So the last few years have been attempting to do that. And I think it's now at the point where the program name is somewhat well known that you can talk about it. People go, oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that. It's ubiquitous as it is across the country. And brewers actually will come to us and say like, hey, I'd love to be part of this. What can I do to get part of this? Like, just contact me and we'll get you an invite and we'll get you in the program. So it's now become like harder for us to keep up with the recruitment, but also, getting more brewers from specific areas. And that's one of our goals is like, we have, I think, 1 or 2 Chicago area brewers. It's the second largest metropolitan area in the United States of America. We should have more. We need more in the Northeast. We want, the Alchemist needs to be in the program. And we start kind of considering these things as we go on the list, and we get more like kind of like internally, we get more like kind of competitive about what we want to do to the program. And then last year, this guy, Whit Baker, who has Bond Brothers, Ancillary Fermentation, and I think Standard Brewing, he came along and he helped us get like 15 brewers in Raleigh and helped us do this little virtual brew fest. And that was like a godsend. It's like, we want to find those kinds of people that will help us to recruit and get more brewers involved, because we're limited in terms of our personnel, because we don't want to hire an army of people and spend millions of dollars on marketing and advertising and staff when we want that money to go back to our lab to service the scientists so they can create these treatments and these therapies. So that's kind of where we are limited. And any volunteer work from the community at large, even website people, back to Andrew's comment about if you don't see a logo on there part of the time, it's because brewers are doing a million different things in their world, and they haven't been able to get it to us. Or we have a section called Beers Available Now, and we want to feature anybody's beer, and we don't have the follow-up, and they don't have the manpower as well, especially in a year of COVID, to say, here's our logo, here's the specs on our beer, so we can list it. We only have like 27 beers listed out of 175 brewers. So consider that, it's like anything we can do to kind of expand the program and make it better and make people like more focused on it. And Untapped is going to help us do that this year. We're very excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, ultimately, we have a vast area of data that can be helpful with the situation, especially spreading the knowledge, spreading the word out there, from our data set of beers that you don't have to worry about updating, because, they're updated pretty frequently there, and they're done by the breweries. But if you're watching out there and Mike, if somebody wants to get involved with the program, what's the best way, to get involved, in a sense where you mentioned, contacting breweries? Is there emailing you directly? Is there, other than the website, what's the best way for them to get involved and get involved with the program?
So you can go directly to the website, Ails for ALS, and it's a4a.als.net, a4a.als.net. And on there, on the contact button, you can put in any information there, and that is an info@ email that comes directly to me. You can also send me directly an email at mshannon, my last name, @als.net, and we can follow up on any. A guy from Georgia just contacted me today. He's part of a ERP, which is a platform for sales, I believe, for brewers, and it's called Vicinity Brewery. He's got a brewery as well. He's like, I want to be part of the program. So it's like, that's how he got a hold of me. So now we got a potential new brewer. He's going to go talk to all of his customers. Some people might use the software in their systems at their breweries, and that's another way for us to kind of capitalize on getting more brewers involved.
Absolutely. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Obviously, we talked about how you're from Washington State. One of the things we always ask some of our guests here is about the scene of the brewery scene up there in the area you live, and give a little insights on what you think are the top spots that are popping up there. Obviously, in the Pacific Northwest, everyone knows about the hops, about Oregon and whatnot. We talked earlier about how I've never personally been in Washington State. If somebody's visiting for the first time, what would be your recommendation for places to go? Obviously, in a post-COVID world, of some of the upcoming breweries that may not make everybody's map.
Well, so I am from Washington, but I lived in California for like 27 years. So California is like my second favorite state, like right next to Washington. But I grew up here, so I gotta like Spokane. And I live in Spokane, which people might think is out in the middle of nowhere, but it's actually got a pretty rich beer culture too. So if you're traveling to Washington State and you want to hit, people would go and hit wine in certain states, like in California, you go to Napa or you go to the Sonoma Valley. Here, it's like you can't miss if you go from Spokane to Seattle because you could come to Seattle first and head east. And in Seattle, your choices are pretty unlimited. I mean, Fremont Brewing Company, Matt Lincecum and what he does there, he does some incredible beer. Reuben's Brews is right down the street from him. There's Cloudburst, there's Old Stove. Georgetown is always the mainstay. Those guys are fantastic brewers. You get down into Tacoma, there's a tap house down there in Tacoma called the Parkway. Have you ever been there? Oh man, they have every beer imaginable in the state of Washington and everywhere else. I think they're one of the only states. They're the last tap room in the state of Washington that used to get Pliny the Elder. But they're fantastic. And you head east, you get to the middle of the state. Ellensburg has Iron Horse Brewing Company, and then of course, go 25 to 30 miles south of there to Yakima. You go over this hill that looks like you're in Afghanistan. And you drop into Yakima. And it's like there's Bellbreaker Brewing Company and everything. And it's like you don't need to go anywhere else, quite frankly. But then you come to Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, if you're familiar with it, they're only miles apart. And Spokane has about 15 to 16 like really excellent craft brewers. Guy I grew up with has a farm up here called Big Barn, and he grows his own fruit. And it's in Green Bluff, Washington, right outside of Spokane. Downtown, you have Whistle Punk, you have Iron Goat, you have Golden Handle Project. My buddy Matt Gilbreth has Humble Abode Brewing Company. There's just brewers all over Spokane. And then in Coeur d'Alene, there's Dav Badger. There's a couple of others. It's just, you go into Wallace, Idaho, and they have the Wallace Brewing Company. I don't know if you know much about Wallace, Idaho. It was a book called The Big Burn, written by Tim Egan, a guy I knew growing up. And it's about the fire that basically devastated Wallace. Wallace used to be a mining and a railroad town. There's a lot of prostitution there, but there was also a lot of bootlegging. Anyway, they have an excellent brewery. Sorry for that little tidbit if anybody's offended.
No worries.
So that's the region,
There you go, right?
Portland's only a couple hours from Seattle, and Portland, oh my gosh, you get lost in Portland at the breweries.
We talk about this. I mean, I've been to Portland numerous times. We're talking about this story in the pre-show, but my first time going to Portland about 6 years ago, there's a large river that pretty much separates downtown and the industrial areas that go into Portland. Yeah, so I went down there and I was like, here's all this little breweries I wanted to hit. I was ready to go. And there was an E. coli breakout in the water. And all the breweries to the west of that river shut down, which is pretty much all of them. There were a few that are on the outskirts that I did go to. Whitney was farther away from it, so they're not closed. But it was crazy. I had all these little breweries I wanted to hit because it's amazing down there. And I couldn't do any of them because they were all closed down. So pretty crazy how things work out there. But there's a lot of people in the chat that have been posted some stuff about different breweries they like in the Seattle area. Nathan said Holy Mountains in Seattle. That's a great brewery I've heard a lot about as well. Haven't had a chance to try them out. What's your take on Holy Mountain?
I haven't been there yet. I'm thinking of Holy Mountain, the movie by Jodorowsky, which is crazy. But anyway.
Very cool. I want to put this comment from Mike Becker. Thanks for raising awareness. I'd rather drink a nice cold beer for ALS than another ice bucket challenge. But yeah, whatever raises the money for the funds and gets the awareness out there, that's really the whole point of it. But
we lost one of our key ice bucket challenge creators, Pat Quinn, just about 2 weeks ago. What a wonderful guy.
Yeah, such a sad moment there. From that side. Jamie said, Great Notion in Portland is pretty damn good, not that far from Vancouver, Washington. Absolutely. We actually had a 7-city tour event at Great Notion a couple of years ago. An amazing little spot there. I believe they're there now. They just own the program?
Tell them to join the program.
Oh, yes, absolutely. They are very, very busy, as I've been told, in terms of getting there. They just launched their e-commerce platform where you can order all in the state of Oregon right from their app. But yes, I would love to get them to be part of the program here. They're a great group of guys up there in Portland. Question. Let's see. We got a question here from Margaret. It says, question from Mike. If there's another virtual beer fest, can you expand shipping or other options for Midwesterners can join in the fun? Writing from KCMO.
So we love to do that. What I discovered when we went into this thing on virtual, it's like the laws are absurd.
They are.
To get beer shipped from one state to another, it's almost like we're back in Prohibition era, right?
Oh
So you
yeah.
can only ship beer in Washington to Washington residents. You can only ship California beer to California residents, depending upon who you know.
Yeah.
But like we've also talked to Eric Bean at Columbus Brewing Company to try to figure out in the Ohio area something we could do. Also, I got a guy up in Minnesota, Drew Hurst at Bajas Brewing. He wants to get involved in that kind of a thing. But we're working with Tavor, and we're trying to figure out a way with Tavor that we can actually get beer sent to them, and they are based in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And they could then send beer all the way across the country. So that might be an opportunity. And I would recommend that any of the beer that's available at any of the breweries, if you called a brewer or you emailed them or you emailed us, we could connect you. There would probably be some way, and I say that very softly, that you can get that beer, especially, depending upon California. It's like we had over 25 brewers participate in California. We had to sort over 220 cases of beer.
Wow.
And Roger, Claudia at Faction helped us, and Jay at the Rare Barrel. And I would guarantee you that if there was an objective for a Midwesterner to get a hold of California beer or Massachusetts beer, we could find a way.
That's the cool thing about this industry. There's people coming together to kind of come together for a great cause. I mean, we've done a lot of these virtual festivals too at Untapped, and I'll definitely agree with you that it's very difficult to be able to ship beer to different parties. Tavor is a great opportunity, and I hope that works out from that side. But it's obviously hard to get everywhere. Even if you try, to get it into Midwest, maybe the East Coast doesn't get it. You go to East Coast, maybe the Midwest doesn't get it. So it's very hard to cover the entire world, unfortunately. Hopefully, a lot of these laws have been changing because of COVID to allow brewers to be more flexible in their nature. And hopefully this allows for more distribution of beer in the future in the post-COVID world, because it's a great thing to be able to enjoy a beer, especially with these kind of global celebrations. From shipping into your hands. So that's hopefully something that hope works out for you guys.
We're good friends with Night Shift Brewing in Boston, and they have a shipping, a commerce section of their whole business, and we're going to talk to them a little bit about that regionally, if not nationally. Maybe there's an opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure talking with you tonight. We're at the half an hour here, so I want to give an opportunity to let you have the floor to give any kind of final thoughts you might want to give to the community, where people can find more information about website links, things of that nature. I'd love for you to share that with the group.
Well, the beauty of the program is that we're focused on a product and a kind of a substance that is everybody loves, it seems, and you don't have to necessarily be directly connected to ALS. And servicing the funding that we need in order to kind of find the treatments and cures. That's really our objective. Is we want this to be that particular program that helps us take us over the top. And anybody out there that's drinking a beer, all you need to do to help in that regard, if you're dedicated to that cause, is find us brewers that want to be in the program, buy the beer that's available, and support your local brewers that are supporting the program. And those of you that aren't connected to ALS, but you really like, this whole concept and just beer in general as a low affinity element, join us in any brew fest we do in your region. Buy these brewers beer. They're all listed there because that supports them to support us. And if we get into the next year and anybody that's listening to this has a really good idea, like the guy in Georgia, and you have a company that's philanthropic, give us a call, get a hold of us, email us, and we will definitely like to consider an idea that you might have in any part of the country. Midwesterner is an example. Where are you from? Let us know. We would love to. We have a great brewery in Iowa too, Big Grove Brewery in Iowa. They are a big part of our program, except for this year they had to bow out because of COVID. So anybody that is in those areas that knows brewers, and you know them personally, that's where we really get the real coup de grace. There is like that brewer introduce them directly to us, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for being part of it, our virtual happy hour today. I'm happy that we got a chance to connect and glad that Untapped is supporting this great initiative. Hopefully get more brewers on the platform and be able to kind of continue this work. So, Mike, thank you so much for your time tonight and appreciate being part of this.
Thank you, Greg, and I hope you get to finish your beer.
I'm almost done. Thanks, Mike. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for watching our virtual happy hour tonight on this Tuesday. This is our last show of 2020, believe it or not. We're going to be back on the air January 7th, 2021, taking a little holiday hiatus, ending the year strong, hopefully, and getting back to a brand new year in 2021. I want to thank everybody on our team to help make this year the best it could be with our virtual happy hour, our producers, our people that have been on the show, and most importantly, you, the viewers out there. Thank you so much for watching this. It's been a joy for me to host these things and can talk to you about the great initiatives and great things we're doing, and glad that you're watching it and enjoying it as well. So check us back in on Untapped.tv in January for the new lineup of the people that are coming on our show. Thank you so much for watching this year, and have a great night, everybody. Cheers.